Have you ever noticed that the world often rewards those who seem least deserving of power? Look around. The most innovative companies are frequently led not by the most credentialed experts, but by college dropouts. Government positions overflow with individuals who appear less qualified than many they govern. Family dynasties pass wealth to heirs who've never worked a day in their lives. This isn't random chance. It's a pattern as old as civilization itself. The most dangerous prisons aren't built with concrete and steel, but with comfortable routines and the quiet acceptance of mediocrity. Most people live their entire lives without ever discovering the keys dangling within their reach. What choices are you making today that will determine who holds power in your life tomorrow? Think about that for a moment. Not next week. Not when conditions are perfect, but right now in this moment. You see, power isn't necessarily given to the most qualified. It flows to those who understand certain fundamental principles about human nature and have the courage to act on them. Sometimes those who appear foolish to the crowd are simply operating with a different set of rules. Rules that most people never learn. Let me share something that changed everything for me. Years ago, I found myself at a crossroads. I was working 60 hours a week, barely keeping afloat financially, and watching others with half my work ethic getting twice the results. It made no sense. Then one afternoon, while waiting for a delayed flight, I struck up a conversation with an elderly gentleman. "Young man," he said, "you're mistaking activity for achievement." Those 6 words hit me like a thunderbolt. I'd been running on a treadmill, moving fast but going nowhere. That chance conversation completely redirected my life's trajectory, because it forced me to recognize that hard work without strategic direction is just exhaustion masquerading as progress. What about you? Are you confusing motion with advancement? Are you measuring your progress by how busy you are, or by how effectively you're moving toward your goals? Most people never ask themselves these essential questions. They wake up, go through their routines, and wonder why nothing ever changes. Then they look at those in positions of influence and power and think, they must know something I don't. And they're absolutely right. The most powerful people understand that success isn't about circumstances, it's about personal growth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's why 2 people can face identical situations and experience completely different outcomes. Think of your life as a farm. You can't plant corn and expect to harvest tomatoes. The universe operates by laws just as reliable as the seasons. The foolish, those who end up with power, aren't foolish at all. They simply understand that you must plant today what you hope to harvest tomorrow. Every day I meet people who want better results without becoming better themselves. They want the harvest without the planting. They want the wealth without the work. They want the position without the preparation. And then they stand bewildered when opportunities pass them by, claimed by those they consider less worthy. Here's the truth that changed my life. Your income, your influence, your impact. These will rarely exceed your personal development. When was the last time you invested in yourself? When was the last time you read something challenging, learned a new skill, or pushed beyond your comfort zone? Most people spend more time planning their vacations than planning their lives. They invest more in their cell phone plans than in their personal growth. And then they wonder why others, sometimes those they consider foolish, end up with all the power. Power vacuum exists wherever personal responsibility is abandoned. Nature abhors a vacuum. When responsible people abdicate their duty to lead in their families, communities, businesses, someone will always step in to fill that gap. Often it's the person you'd least expect. I once worked with a mid-sized manufacturing company facing bankruptcy. Their industry was changing rapidly, and they'd failed to adapt. When I arrived, the executive team was filled with highly educated professionals who spent their days analyzing problems and assigning blame. Meanwhile, a shipping manager with no college degree had been quietly developing solutions on his own time. 6 months later, that shipping manager was running the company's most profitable division, while most of the executive team had been let go. The experts focused on problems. The fool focused on solutions. Who was really foolish? What separates those who accumulate power from those who don't? It's not intelligence, connections, or luck, though those factors might play supporting roles. The primary difference is a willingness to take 100% responsibility for your life. When something goes wrong in your life, what's your first reaction? Do you look for something or someone to blame? Or do you ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow through this challenge? The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. Those who rise to positions of power aren't necessarily smarter. They're simply willing to act before all the information is available. They understand that perfect timing doesn't exist. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The same applies to your personal development, your business ventures, your relationships, to everything that matters in your life. Many people approach life as if it were a dress rehearsal. They tell themselves, someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll run for office. Meanwhile, the supposedly foolish person has already started, already failed several times, already learned from those failures, and already claimed the power that comes from taking action. There's a fundamental truth about human nature. We value what we earn far more than what is given to us. Those who work hard to achieve something guard it carefully. Those who are handed something often squander it. This applies to wealth, relationships, health, and especially to power. The most dangerous form of self-deception is believing you deserve something you haven't worked for. Entitlement is the enemy of achievement. It blinds you to opportunities and makes you bitter about outcomes. Consider this: the average person spends more time complaining about their circumstances than creating new ones. They invest more energy in pointing out problems than in developing solutions. They focus more attention on what others should do differently than on what they themselves could change. And they wonder why power eludes them. The greatest power you'll ever have is the power to choose. To choose your thoughts, your actions, your responses to whatever life throws at you. Most people surrender this power daily, reacting to events rather than creating them. A man approached me after a seminar once, frustrated about his stalled career. I've been passed over for promotion 3 times, he said. It's always the brown nosers who get ahead. Tell me, I asked, what books have you read in your field this year? I don't have time for reading, he replied. What professional organizations are you active in? Those are just glorified social clubs, he scoffed. Have you taken any additional training beyond what your company provides? They should be training me better, he insisted. This man couldn't understand why others, those he considered less deserving, kept moving ahead while he remained stuck. Yet the answer was painfully obvious to everyone but him. He was waiting for success to find him rather than pursuing it relentlessly. The world doesn't reward passive potential. It rewards active production. I've studied successful people for decades, and I've found this consistent truth. They do what unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. They have the same fears, the same doubts, the same obstacles. They simply respond differently. When average people hit a wall, they look for someone to blame. When exceptional people hit a wall, they look for a way through, over, under, or around. If they can't find a way, they make one. This willingness to do whatever it takes, within ethical boundaries, is what separates those who accumulate power from those who don't. It's not about working harder. It's about working differently. Most people operate from a place of scarcity. They believe there's only so much success, only so much wealth, only so much power to go around. So they hoard what little they have and eye others suspiciously. The supposedly foolish people who rise to power often operate from abundance. They believe there's more than enough for everyone. They focus on creation rather than competition. They build new roads rather than fighting for space on existing ones. I remember reading about a young entrepreneur who launched a business in an already crowded market. Industry experts predicted swift failure. 5 years later, his company had revolutionized the industry, while many established players had disappeared. When interviewed about his success, he said something profound. Everyone else was fighting over the existing pie. I decided to bake a new one. That's the mindset of those who accumulate power. They don't play the game better. They change the game entirely. Your circumstances today are the direct result of choices you made yesterday. Your circumstances tomorrow will be the direct result of choices you make today. This simple truth escapes most people. They blame their upbringing, the economy, their boss, their spouse, their metabolism, anything and everything except the person in the mirror. Meanwhile, someone with fewer advantages, fewer resources, and fewer connections is quietly building an empire through consistent, deliberate action. The fundamental paradox of power is this: it comes to those who don't need it. When you're desperate for power, you repel it. When you focus instead on contribution, on solving problems, on adding value, power flows naturally to you. Most people are trying to take something from the world. They're asking, what can I get? The powerful few are trying to give something to the world. They're asking, what can I contribute? That subtle shift in focus makes all the difference. Consider your own life. Are you primarily a consumer or a producer? Do you spend more time taking in content or creating it? Are you focused more on claiming your slice of existing opportunity or on generating new opportunities altogether? The answers to these questions reveal whether you're on the path to power or the path to dependence. I've often heard people say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. There's some truth to that, but it misses a deeper point. Who you know is largely determined by who you are. You attract relationships that mirror your value, want better connections, become a better person, increase your knowledge, sharpen your skills, develop your character. The quality of your network will naturally rise to meet the quality of your contribution. This brings us to another crucial understanding. Formal education can make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune. The most powerful people I've met are voracious learners, not to collect credentials but to solve problems. How many books have you read in the past year? What new skills have you developed? What uncomfortable challenges have you voluntarily embraced? Your answers reveal whether you're preparing for power or preparing for mediocrity. The great tragedy is that most people never discover what they're truly capable of. They settle for far less than their potential because they're unwilling to endure the discomfort of growth. They choose the pain of regret over the pain of discipline. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Yet most choose the latter. Those who accumulate power make a different choice. They embrace short-term discomfort for long-term freedom. They understand that anything worth having costs something, and they're willing to pay the price. What price are you willing to pay for the life you claim to want? Your answer reveals whether you're serious or merely curious. Many people treat their dreams like lottery tickets, hoping for a windfall with minimal investment. They want the success without the struggle, the victory without the battle, the crown without the cross. Meanwhile, the foolish people who end up with power are paying the price daily, through disciplined action, through continuous learning, through relentless focus on their highest priorities. They understand that success isn't a matter of chance but of choice. Not one big dramatic choice, but thousands of small consistent choices that compound over time. The most powerful force in the universe isn't technology, or money, or even intelligence. It's compound interest, in finance, in relationships, in knowledge, in skills. Small improvements, consistently made, yield extraordinary results over time. 1% better each day means you're nearly 38 times better after 1 year. Most people underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade of focused effort. I often ask audiences, where will you be 5 years from now? The answer depends entirely on two things: the books you read and the people you associate with. These two factors shape your thinking more than anything else, and your thinking determines your actions. Your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. What occupies your mind most of the time? Whatever it is, that's what you're becoming. Most people think about what they fear or what they lack. Then they're surprised when they experience more fear and lack. Those who rise to power think about what they want to create and contribute. Their reality eventually conforms to their dominant thoughts. This isn't mystical, it's practical. When you focus on problems, you become problem-oriented. When you focus on solutions, you become solution-oriented. One mindset leads to stagnation, the other leads to advancement. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power aren't distracted by the problems that paralyze others. They're too busy creating solutions that move them forward. I once heard a successful business owner say, "I don't watch the news. If something important happens, someone will tell me." When asked if he worried about missing opportunities, he replied, "I'm too busy creating opportunities to worry about missing them." Most people would consider that foolish. Yet his company outperformed competitors who spent hours daily consuming news about market conditions. Who was really being foolish? Your attention is your most valuable asset. Where you direct it determines what expands in your life. Most people fritter away their attention on things they can neither control nor influence. Then they wonder why they feel powerless. Those who accumulate power guard their attention carefully. They focus predominantly on their circle of influence, the things they can actually impact, and watch that circle naturally expand. Here's another paradox of power. Responsibility precedes authority. Most people want authority without responsibility. They want the corner office before they've proven they can lead. They want the promotion before they've demonstrated their value. The foolish people who end up with power take responsibility long before they have authority. They solve problems nobody asked them to solve. They develop skills nobody required them to develop. They create value that exceeds their job description. And then when opportunity knocks, as it always does for the prepared, They're ready to walk through doors that remain closed to others. What extra responsibilities are you voluntarily assuming today? What problems are you solving that nobody has assigned to you? Your answers reveal whether you're preparing for power or preparing for continued dependency. The marketplace rewards value. It's that simple. Not effort, not intentions, not credentials, but value. How much value are you currently creating? For whom? How do you know? Most people overestimate their contribution and underestimate their compensation. They think they're giving more than they're getting. The reality is usually the opposite. Those who accumulate power create so much value that their compensation, however substantial, seems small by comparison. They don't have to demand recognition. It comes naturally as a reflection of their contribution. Once you take full responsibility for your life, the next step is understanding the patterns that govern success and failure. These patterns aren't random. They're as predictable as the changing seasons. Have you noticed how certain people seem to repeatedly land on their feet, regardless of circumstances? Meanwhile, others face the same obstacles and crumble under the pressure. What's the difference? It's not luck. It's pattern recognition. Success leaves clues. Failure leaves clues. Power leaves clues. Those who appear foolish yet accumulate power have simply learned to read these clues, while others remain blind to them. Consider this. Life moves in cycles. Winter always follows fall. Spring always follows winter. These natural rhythms can't be rushed or avoided. The same principle applies to your personal and professional growth. Most people quit during winter seasons. They interpret challenges as permanent conditions, rather than temporary phases. The supposedly foolish people who end up with power understand that winter isn't just inevitable. It's necessary. Without winter, there can be no spring. I remember working with a business owner who'd built a thriving company, lost everything in an economic downturn, then rebuilt an even larger enterprise within 3 years. When I asked how he managed this remarkable comeback, he said most people are destroyed by failure because they take it personally. I see failure as information, valuable data about what doesn't work. The faster I fail, the quicker I learn, and the sooner I succeed. This perspective transforms obstacles from threats into teachers. While most avoid challenges, the powerful seek them out, knowing that strength comes through resistance, not comfort. Ask yourself, how do you respond to adversity? Do you retreat, blame, or make excuses? Or do you lean in, take notes, and adapt your approach? Your answer reveals whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another crucial pattern. All meaningful achievement follows the law of the harvest. You reap what you sow, more than you sow, and later than you sow. This principle governs everything from fitness to finances, relationships to business. Most people want the harvest without the planting. They want the benefits without the effort. They want the results without the process. Then they stand bewildered when others, often those they consider less deserving, claim the rewards they coveted. The pattern is simple yet profound. Input determines output. What you consistently do determines what you consistently get. Not what you occasionally do or what you intend to do, but what you actually do day after day, when no one's watching. I've studied thousands of successful individuals across various fields, and I've found this consistent truth. They all understand the relationship between today's actions and tomorrow's results. They're willing to do today what others won't, so they can have tomorrow what others can't. What seeds are you planting today? Are you investing in knowledge, relationships, and skills? Or are you consuming mindless entertainment, engaging in petty conflicts, and postponing important work? Your harvest will reflect your planting. It's an inescapable law. Here's another pattern the powerful understand. The gap between knowing and doing is often vast. Most people know what they should do. They simply don't do what they know. They know they should save money, but they spend impulsively. They know they should exercise, but they remain sedentary. They know they should develop their skills, but they waste time on trivialities. Then they wonder why power and success elude them, while flowing to those they consider less intelligent or less deserving. Knowledge without action is merely potential, and potential, unexecuted, counts for nothing. The world rewards executed know-how, not merely possessed know-how. I once asked a highly successful entrepreneur what separated her from her competitors. Her answer was instructive. We all had the same information, the same opportunities, and similar resources. The difference was that they analyzed while I acted. While they were still perfecting their plans, I was learning from real-world feedback and making adjustments. This pattern, acting before all conditions are perfect, separates those who accumulate power from those who don't. Imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. What have you been postponing until conditions improve? What important work remains undone because you're waiting for more information, more resources, more confidence? Your answer reveals whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another crucial pattern: environments matter more than intentions. You'll naturally become like the people you regularly associate with. Their habits, beliefs, standards, and expectations will gradually become yours through a process of unconscious absorption. Most people severely underestimate this influence. They claim immunity from their surroundings while demonstrating the opposite in their behaviors, attitudes, and results. Those who accumulate power curate their environments with extreme care. They limit exposure to negativity, mediocrity, and distraction. They intentionally surround themselves with individuals who elevate their thinking, challenge their limitations, and model the success they aspire to achieve. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? What standards do they hold? What results have they created? What beliefs do they reinforce? Your answers reveal your likely trajectory, because environments eventually overcome intentions. The pattern continues. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. Most people chronically choose comfort over growth, then wonder why their circumstances never improve. Meanwhile, those who accumulate power embrace discomfort as the price of progress. Every meaningful achievement requires leaving your comfort zone. Every new level of success demands developing new capabilities. Every significant advancement necessitates abandoning familiar patterns for unfamiliar ones. I recall meeting a highly successful real estate developer who shared something profound. He said, "I've been in business for 30 years, but I don't have 30 years of experience. I have 1 year of experience repeated 30 times. The years I truly grew were those when I took on challenges that terrified me." This pattern, choosing growth over comfort, separates the powerful from the powerless. Most people organize their lives around avoiding discomfort. They stay in unfulfilling jobs, maintain unhealthy relationships, and continue ineffective behaviors, all to avoid the temporary discomfort of change. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power make a different choice. They voluntarily embrace challenges that stretch their capabilities, knowing that temporary discomfort leads to permanent expansion. What uncomfortable situations have you been avoiding? What conversations, decisions, or actions have you postponed because they might cause discomfort? Your answers reveal whether you're organizing your life around growth or comfort. Another critical pattern: words create worlds. The language you use, both internally and externally, shapes your perception and ultimately your reality. Most people use disempowering language without recognizing its impact on their results. They say, "I'll try," instead of "I will." They describe problems as impossible rather than challenging. They use phrases like "I have to" instead of "I choose to." This language reinforces victimhood rather than ownership. Those who accumulate power use language deliberately. They understand that words aren't merely descriptive, they're creative. The right words at the right time can transform perception, ignite motivation, and catalyze action. Listen to how you speak about challenges, opportunities, and yourself. Do your words expand possibilities or contract them? Do they emphasize ownership or victimhood? Do they focus on what's possible or what's problematic? Your answers reveal whether your language patterns are generating power or preventing it. Now, let's discuss another fundamental pattern: the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. Most people focus predominantly on their circle of concern, all the things they worry about but cannot directly control. Political events, economic conditions, other people's opinions, these consume their attention and drain their energy. Meanwhile, those who accumulate power focus relentlessly on their circle of influence, the areas where their actions can make a tangible difference. They invest their energy in what they can change rather than what they can merely complain about. This focused attention produces 2 powerful results. It yields concrete improvements in their immediate circumstances, and it gradually expands their circle of influence. The more they focus on what they can control, the more they can control. Where does your attention primarily go? To concerns you can't influence, or to factors you can? Your answer reveals whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another crucial pattern: preparation precedes opportunity. Most people want opportunities without preparation. They want the promotion without developing the necessary skills. They want the business success without building the required knowledge. They want the relationship without cultivating the essential character. Then they wonder why opportunities flow to others, often those they consider less deserving. The pattern is clear. Opportunity doesn't respond to desire. It responds to preparation. It doesn't seek the eager. It seeks the ready. Those who accumulate power prepare diligently, often for years before their overnight success becomes visible to others. They develop skills before they're required. They build networks before they're needed. They accumulate knowledge before it's immediately applicable. In what areas of your life are you currently preparing for opportunities that haven't yet arrived? How are you developing yourself beyond current requirements? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Let's examine another pattern: the structure of achievement. Most people approach goals haphazardly, relying on motivation and willpower, both notoriously unreliable resources. They start strong but fade quickly when inspiration wanes or obstacles arise. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power understand that achievement isn't about motivation, it's about structure. They create environments, routines, and accountability systems that make success almost inevitable, regardless of fleeting emotional states. Consider this: if you want to get in shape, which approach is more likely to succeed? Relying on daily motivation to exercise, or joining a class that meets at specific times, with the instructor who expects your attendance, alongside peers who notice your absence? The structured approach wins every time. The same principle applies to every area of achievement. Structure beats willpower. Systems beat intentions. Environments beat motivation. What structures have you created to support your most important goals? What systems ensure your consistent action regardless of motivation? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another fundamental pattern: questions control focus, and focus determines results. The questions you consistently ask shape your perception, direct your attention, and ultimately create your reality. Most people ask disempowering questions that yield disempowering answers. When facing challenges, they ask, why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? Who's to blame for this situation? These questions direct focus toward victimhood, limitation, and external factors beyond their control. Those who accumulate power ask different questions. What opportunity does this challenge contain? How can I use this situation to my advantage? What would this look like if it were easy? These questions direct focus toward possibility, responsibility, and creative solutions. The pattern is clear: better questions lead to better answers, which generate better results. This isn't positive thinking, it's strategic focusing. What questions dominate your thinking when you face obstacles? Do they emphasize problems or possibilities, blame or responsibility, limitation or opportunity? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Now let's discuss a pattern that mystifies many: the relationship between patience and urgency. Most people get this balance wrong. They're patient about things that require urgency, and urgent about things that require patience. They're patient about starting their business, improving their skills, or addressing important relationship issues, all areas where urgency yields compounding benefits. Simultaneously, they're urgent about seeing results, getting recognition, and achieving success, all areas where patience is essential for sustainable outcomes. Those who accumulate power reverse this pattern. They're urgent about inputs and patient about outputs. They start immediately, work diligently, and improve continuously, while remaining patient about when and how results will manifest. This balanced approach prevents both procrastination and frustration. It combines determined action with realistic expectations about how achievement actually unfolds. How do you balance patience and urgency? Are you urgent about beginning, but patient about succeeding? Or do you postpone beginning while expecting immediate results once you start? Your answer reveals whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another critical pattern: energy management trumps time management. Most people focus on managing time, a finite democratic resource that treats all hours as equal. They create elaborate schedules, detailed to-do lists, and complex productivity systems, yet still feel overwhelmed and underproductive. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power focus instead on managing energy, a variable, renewable resource that fluctuates throughout the day. They recognize that 1 hour of focused, high-energy work often accomplishes more than 4 hours of distracted, low-energy effort. This shift in focus from time to energy transforms productivity. It emphasizes working with your natural rhythms rather than against them. It values recovery as much as exertion. It measures output rather than. How do you currently approach productivity? Do you focus primarily on managing time or on managing energy? Do you measure success by hours worked or by meaningful results achieved? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Let's examine another pattern. The relationship between consumption and creation. Most people spend the majority of their time consuming information, entertainment, products, experiences. This passive posture may feel comfortable, but it generates neither wealth nor influence. Those who accumulate power focus predominantly on creating ideas, solutions, products, opportunities. This active posture feels challenging, but generates both material and social capital that compound over time. The pattern is clear. Consumers remain dependent, creators develop power. Consumers trade time for temporary pleasure, creators invest time for lasting impact. Consumers focus on taking, creators focus on making. What's your current ratio of consumption to creation? Do you spend more time absorbing others' content or producing your own? More time using others' products or developing your own? More time experiencing what exists or bringing new possibilities into existence? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another fundamental pattern, the relationship between problems and solutions. Most people organize their identity around problems. What's wrong? What's missing? What's not working? This problem-centered orientation feels responsible but actually diminishes effectiveness. Those who accumulate power organize their identity around solutions. What's possible? What's working? What's next? This solution-centered orientation feels optimistic but actually enhances pragmatism. The pattern is consistent across domains. Problem-focused individuals remain stuck in analysis. Solution-focused individuals advance through action. Problem-focused teams become mired in blame. Solution-focused teams collaborate toward outcomes. Problem-focused organizations stagnate. Solution-focused organizations innovate. How do you primarily orient yourself? Toward analyzing problems or creating solutions? Toward what's wrong or what's possible? Toward past causes or future actions? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Let's discuss another crucial pattern. The difference between motion and progress. Most people confuse activity with advancement. They attend meetings, answer emails, complete tasks, and feel productive, yet make minimal progress toward meaningful outcomes. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power distinguish clearly between motion and progress. They recognize that busyness often masks avoidance, that activity often substitutes for courage, that checking boxes often replaces meaningful contribution. This distinction between motion and progress transforms effectiveness. It focuses attention on outcomes rather than activities, on impact rather than effort, on results rather than intentions. How do you evaluate your productivity? By how busy you feel or by what you actually accomplish? By effort expended or by value created? By activities completed or by meaningful outcomes advanced? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Another fundamental pattern, the power of consistent small actions. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. This misperception leads to unrealistic short-term expectations and inadequate long-term planning. Those who accumulate power understand that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions performed consistently over extended periods. They focus less on dramatic changes and more on sustainable habits that compound over time. Consider this: improving any area of your life by just 1% daily yields results that are 37 times better after 1 year. This isn't magic, it's mathematics. Small improvements consistently made create exponential rather than linear progress. What small daily actions could you implement that would transform your results if performed consistently for a year? Where have you been seeking dramatic breakthroughs instead of incremental improvements? Your answers reveal whether you're operating from patterns that generate power or patterns that prevent it. Now, Let's examine a pattern that shapes the distribution of power more than almost any other: the relationship between problems and opportunities. Most people see problems as annoyances to be avoided. They retreat from challenges, seeking the path of least resistance. The supposedly foolish people who accumulate power see problems as opportunities in disguise. They recognize that every significant problem represents a potential market, that every substantial challenge contains the seeds of advancement, that every notable obstacle conceals a hidden advantage. Understanding the patterns that create power is essential, but knowledge alone changes nothing. Now comes the most critical question: what specific actions will you take daily to transform understanding into results? Power isn't created through occasional heroic efforts. It's built through consistent, mundane actions performed with extraordinary focus. The foolish people who end up with power aren't doing complex, mysterious things. They're doing simple, obvious things that most people neglect. What would happen if you implemented just 5 daily disciplines over the next year? Not temporarily, not sporadically, but consistently, day after day, regardless of mood, circumstances, or immediate results. Your life would transform so dramatically that others would hardly recognize you. The first discipline: control your morning, control your day. How you spend the first hour after waking sets the trajectory for everything that follows. Most people immediately surrender this precious time to external demands: checking messages, consuming news, responding to others' priorities. Those who accumulate power protect their mornings vigilantly. They use this time to center themselves, clarify priorities, and strengthen their minds and bodies before engaging with the world's demands. This doesn't require elaborate routines. Even 20 minutes of intentional focus, combining physical movement, mental stimulation, and purposeful planning, creates a foundation that elevates every subsequent hour. I spoke with a CEO who transformed her company's performance after implementing one change. She stopped checking email until 10 a.m. Instead, she spent her first 2 hours reviewing strategic priorities, solving creative problems, and preparing for important conversations. When I checked email first thing, she explained, I became reactive rather than proactive. I spent my best mental energy responding to others instead of advancing my most important work. This simple shift from reactive to proactive mornings created cascading benefits throughout her organization. She made better decisions, communicated more clearly, and maintained perspective during crises, all from one daily discipline. What currently dominates your first waking hour? Does it energize or deplete you? Does it focus or fragment your attention? Does it advance your priorities or serve others' agendas? Your answers reveal whether your mornings are building power or diminishing it. The second essential discipline: strategic elimination. Most people focus on adding more and more activities, more commitments, more possessions. This additive approach creates complexity that eventually becomes unmanageable. Those who accumulate power focus instead on strategic elimination, removing everything that doesn't significantly contribute to their most important goals. They recognize that subtraction often creates more value than addition. I worked with an entrepreneur who doubled his company's profitability, not by launching new products but by eliminating underperforming ones. He reduced his product line from 27 offerings to just 8. This simplification decreased costs, focused marketing efforts, and improved customer experience. The hardest part wasn't deciding what to eliminate, he told me. It was overcoming the fear of missing out. I worried about lost opportunities until I realized that focus itself creates opportunities. The same principle applies to your personal effectiveness. What could you eliminate today that would create space for what matters most? Which activities, relationships, or commitments consume resources without generating proportional returns? Your answers reveal opportunities for strategic elimination. This isn't about becoming a minimalist. It's about becoming maximally effective by concentrating your resources on your highest value activities. Elimination isn't deprivation, it's liberation. The third daily discipline: deliberate discomfort. Most people organize their lives around avoiding discomfort. They create routines, environments, and relationships that maintain their comfort zones, then wonder why their capabilities never expand. Those who accumulate power deliberately embrace discomfort as a growth strategy. They regularly place themselves in situations that challenge their limitations, knowing that capability expands only when existing boundaries are stretched. This deliberate discomfort isn't masochism. It's strategic investment in expanded capacity. Just as a muscle grows stronger when stressed beyond current capability, your professional and personal capacities grow when intentionally challenged. I remember interviewing a successful investor who maintained an unusual practice every month. He deliberately initiated a conversation with someone who intimidated him, not to close a deal or secure a partnership, but simply to expand his comfort zone. Early in my career, he explained, I missed several significant opportunities because I was intimidated by the people involved. I decided to systematically eliminate that limitation through gradual exposure. Now those conversations feel natural, and doors that once seemed permanently closed have opened. What form of discomfort, if regularly embraced, would most expand your capabilities? Public speaking, difficult conversations, physical challenges, creative risks? Your answer reveals your highest leverage growth opportunity. The fourth essential discipline, intellectual curiosity. Most people stop learning once formal education ends. They might absorb information passively, but they rarely engage in rigorous self-directed study. Their intellectual growth flatlines precisely when it should accelerate. Those who accumulate power maintain voracious curiosity throughout their lives. They read extensively across diverse fields. They ask penetrating questions. They pursue knowledge not merely for practical application but for the cognitive flexibility it develops. This intellectual curiosity isn't academic or theoretical. It's intensely practical, creating connections between seemingly unrelated domains and generating insights invisible to specialized thinkers. I once asked a remarkably successful CEO about his reading habits. His answer surprised me. I read at least one book weekly, and rarely in my industry. I study history, science, philosophy, biography, anything that expands my thinking beyond conventional business wisdom. When I expressed surprise at this approach, he explained, the most valuable business insights come from outside business literature. Everyone in my industry reads the same books, attends the same conferences, and recycles the same ideas. The real advantage comes from importing concepts from unrelated fields. What are you currently studying that has no obvious connection to your primary field? What knowledge, if acquired, would provide perspective unavailable to your peers? Your answers reveal whether your learning habits are building competitive advantage or merely maintaining parity. The fifth daily discipline, relationship cultivation. Most people approach relationships passively. They connect with whoever happens to be convenient, maintain relationships that no longer serve mutual growth, and neglect strategic relationship development. Those who accumulate power approach relationships with intentionality. They purposefully connect with individuals who elevate their thinking, expand their opportunities, and exemplify their aspirations. They invest in relationships based on future potential rather than merely present comfort. This intentional approach isn't manipulative or transactional. It's recognition that relationships significantly influence trajectory. The people you consistently engage with shape your standards, beliefs, opportunities, and ultimately your outcomes. I recall a conversation with a woman who had transformed her career through one simple practice every week. She invited someone she admired to coffee, not to ask for opportunities or extract value, but simply to learn from their experience and perspective. Most of these conversations led nowhere immediately, she told me. But over time they completely transformed my professional network. Opportunities emerged that I couldn't have imagined, not because I pursued them directly, but because I had built authentic relationships with the right people. Choose one discipline, implement it today, then again tomorrow, then the next day. Watch what happens, not immediately, but eventually. Not dramatically, but substantially. Not accidentally, but inevitably. This is how the most foolish people end up with power. Not through shortcuts, schemes, or secrets, but through fundamentals applied consistently despite discomfort, despite uncertainty, despite criticism. Will you join them? Will you make the daily choices that appear foolish in the moment but prove wise over time? Will you embrace the disciplines that create short-term challenge but generate long-term power? The opportunity stands before you. Not dramatic, not exciting, not immediately rewarding, but ultimately transformative. The same opportunity available to anyone willing to choose discipline over comfort, value over convenience, growth over stability. The same opportunity consistently seized by those who appear foolish yet accumulate extraordinary results, who start before they're ready, who persist when others quit, who invest when others consume, who build when others criticize. The same opportunity now awaiting your decision. Not someday, not eventually, but now. What will you choose?